Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited. This is my second blab show. This is Carole Copeland Thomas, and I'm excited because I have great friends who are members of the Multicultural Committee for the Greater Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we're going to talk about Boston today and the exciting opportunities that await you to come visit our city. It's going to be quite fun. Let me just cut this phone off now. And actually, I may need to take this because this is one of our other members. Hold on one second. Hello, Daryl. You are actually on the Blab Show. How are you? Yes. Okay. Yes. That's fine. We're actually live on the show now. So do you want to say hello to everybody? Okay. Daryl Lamar says hello. Daryl, we'll see you the next time. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. All righty. Daryl is also a committee member. That's why I wanted to take that call. He's not going to be able to stay with us, but we have a wonderful group of individuals who are going to talk about Boston, the exciting ways that Boston can make your life just really look alive and exciting. And hopefully Bonnie will call back in. Again, I'm Carole Copeland Thomas, and I'm going to turn my volume down a bit so there's not an echo at all. I've been part of the Boston scene for about 35 years. I come from Detroit. I've lived in Atlanta and the Philadelphia area, but I'm very, very excited to be here in Boston because there's just a lot to do. There's a lot to see. I'm a diversity professional. I've been in the diversity world for almost 30 years. And I'm going to give you some websites a little later on, but let me give you some fast facts about Boston. I created a little card here. Boston right now is a majority minority city. Believe it or not, 53% of its residents are non-white in the city. So it's not your grandma's Boston. It has changed dramatically. And when you look at the census ranking that I have here, about a little bit more than 500,000 people, 617,000 people are living in the city right now. In the metro area, it's about 1 million people. And with that said, 22%, the white population in Boston is about 53%, is probably less than that now. The black population, 22%, Native American. Well, let me go back. Male population, go back and make sure I'm reading my facts correctly. The census is 617,594, 47% men in the city. 52% women, white population, 53%. That number is probably down at this point. Black population, 22%. Native American is less than 0.2%. Asian population, 8%. And the Hispanic population, 17%. And then two or more races, about 2.4%. So the city is different. The city is dynamic. The city is demographically quite amazing. Let me see if I can get rid of that echo that's there. And what I may do is I may switch to another mic because we're getting a lot of feedback. So hang on. I'm going to switch mics so I can have a headset, and then I'm probably going to have to refresh this. Okay? So stand by. Let me switch gears here. Use another microphone because we don't want the echo. All right. Take the earrings off. And I am going to switch mics. So you won't hear me for a bit. I'm going to refresh the page, and then we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Okay. All right. Can you ladies hear me? Okay, good,
Yes,
good. Any echo at all?
a
A little.
little.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's the wonders of technology. Hopefully, we'll be able to get rid of that in time, but at least it's better on my end. So I want to jump right in here. I have two fabulous women, and I'm going to have them to speak individually, and then we'll probably have a Q&A session. I know the chat room is going strong. That's great. But I have Dr. Erinn Tucker. She is still a member of our committee. She was a professor at Boston University in the School of Hospitality Management. And then she decided to leave us and go to Philadelphia to become a member of the faculty of Temple University in the School of Hospitality Management. And she's a fabulous person. The knowledge that she has in terms of this industry is amazing. So we're going to have her speak first. And then we're going to have Tiffany Probasco. Did I pronounce that correctly? A wonderful blogger, someone who is well versed not just in the Boston market, but New York and other areas, and she knows travel as well. So let's first hear from Dr. Erinn Tucker. Take it away.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Karen.
I can. What I'd like for you to do is to turn your volume down a little bit. Okay. Yes.
That better?
Okay.
Let me try to move my phone. Okay, because I can hear me. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first blab. So this is very exciting for me. And I just, between you and then also this Saturday hearing about blab, it's just been, it's kind of good to kind of jump right into it. So thank you for having me. I know that one of the areas you wanted to talk about today was looking at the multiculturalism in Boston, which you've read the statistics, but also kind of why is multiculturalism even important as a discussion point and talking about especially meetings in tourism and hospitality. So one of the things that Boston is definitely able to do is that because of its multiculturalism and it's the mixture of so many different both racial groups, but also ethnic groups. I think there's a whole level of ethnicity that has to really be looked at and discussed, that it just brings together a lot of different cultures. But I think that the importance of really looking at multiculturalism has a lot to do with the fact that it's about inclusion. So we have a lot of discussion on diversity, but really inclusion is kind of making sure that everybody has their voice and seat at the table. So I think with having the multiculturalism committee that I've been so proud to serve on and also continue to serve on, is one of those reasons is the fact of the multiculturalism and points and inclusion. As it also though relates to the meetings industry, I mean, Boston has definitely been strategically, and Michael may mention about this, strategically really looking at attracting events both diverse as well as multicultural, and it covers so many different sectors. But they've been really strategic and wanting to attract the events, but also wanting to make the organization of the events extremely inclusive. And with that, I think that Boston is definitely one of those cities that are really, really, really embracing having multicultural events in their area.
We've had great events. For the last 30 years, I've been here 35 years, but when I think about the last 30 years, and particularly the last 20 years, there have been any number of people of color and organizations of color, the NAACP, the Urban League, the National Black MBA Association, the Black Accountants, the Black Engineers, the Society of Asian American Professionals, LULAC, which is a Latino organization. They've all come to Boston and they've all had their conventions or conferences or summits here, and they've walked away wowed, really wowed. I can remember almost 2 years ago, the National Association of Black Journalists met here with their national conference. I'm a part of that organization. And we were just sort of bracing ourselves for whatever criticism that possibly could have happened. Didn't get it. They loved Boston. They really, really enjoyed themselves. So I call it not your average Boston, not your grandma's Boston. It's the new Boston. And Dr. Erinn Tucker, you've definitely shared that information with us. What are you seeing in the landscape in terms of multiculturalism, hospitality, travel, and tourism?
Well, back to me. Well, from a tourism perspective, I mean, definitely the importance of the airport of Logan, really expanding their flights, which I think is extremely important on the tourism side, and extending their flights
Right.
Internationally as well, and welcoming. I think that's been extremely important. On the hospitality side, a lot of different discussions are going around or within Boston, just amongst the restaurant scene. Eli Feldman does a really good sort of like think tank of restaurant professionals and educators to kind of look at sort of this difference between, just having a restaurant town and also having a food town, an inclusive town. He's really done really well bringing politicians together, as well as educators and as well as owners of restaurants together to really have those discussions on labor issues and location and the expense in opening up restaurants. And I think that's kind of showing once again that inclusion. I think because he brings so many different people into the room, and I think that but all have that same common goal. I think that's extremely unique. And I think that that's kind of once again showing that inclusion perspective. And I definitely saw that.
Right. Awesome. There. Very good. Please, you can ask your questions, put it in the chat box. We'd love to have questions for our guests. You can, the way you do it here at Blab, hashtag Q alerts me that you have a question. So hashtag Q and then ask your question, put that in the chat box, and we'll take it from there. I am so excited that Marquessa Petway is with us. She's joining us. And please, Marquessa, she's the one that actually introduced me to Blab. Please join us in the seat if you'd love to. I would be honored to have you on the show. Awesome. So I'm going to move now to Tiffany Probasco, who is going to talk to us again about what it's like to be a professional blogger operating in different cities. Tiffany, take it away.
Yes, so thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. This is also my first time being on Blab, and it's great. So many things are going on at one time, so I'll try to stay focused.
Yes.
But being a blogger is really a great way for me to really get to know Boston. Mm-hmm. So I lived in Boston for about 10 years, and I'm kind of bi-city at this point. Spending part of my time in Boston and part of my time in New York. And what's been really great about Boston has been the blogger community in Boston. So you talked about inclusiveness. I think that the community really wants to change the way that Boston's been viewed.
Right.
Like you said, it's a new Boston, it's a new day. And we really want to have more of a voice on there is really great stuff going on, and being able to spread that virally has been a really great experience. So so being a blogger in both cities has been quite the adventure, but I definitely find my niche in Boston for sure.
Great. How do you divide your time between covering Boston, covering New York, and the other cities that you represent?
Yeah, it is challenging. I mean, when things come up, it's really great that social media is around. So being able to retweet or tweet or graph images from people that I follow on Instagram. So it's being very strategic about the different people, the tastemakers that are within the city that you're covering. So in the places that you can't be everywhere, even though I would love to be,
we all.
I know, don't we all? But I'm able to grasp some ideas of what things were happening or things that are going on and be able to share them with my audience. So a lot of people have grown with us. I mean, the blog has been around for about 8 years. So people, and it started out more of an entertainment in the club type of thing. And though we've grown older, we're not always in the club all the time, we still kind of like to see what's going on. So it's really great to be able to tap into social media, other ways. People email me pictures or things to be able to post to share more information about Boston through my followers.
Right. And Tiffany, your blog is thefab.com, fabempire.com?
The Fab Empire. the Fab Empire, EMPIRE.com.
thefabempire.com. I just put it in the chat room. So you can go to the chat room, and hopefully that's correct. That's the correct way that you spell the URL. Check it out. It's fab. I also like the fact that you've done some video blogs. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, the video blogs, I really like to do interviews. So when I do interviews with people, we also have a YouTube page that has over 1 million views, I think.
Wow.
Right now. So yeah. So we like to put up a lot of different posts from different interviews that we've done with people that are local artists, but also because we're in DC, we're now in Las Vegas. So there's other people that we're able to contact as well. So it has that, and then for a while I did a vlog on what we were doing each week, but it was hard to keep up. So I may go back to it though. But yeah, mostly a lot of interviews and things that we've been able to put up there, and of course with being on video, you can see it anytime, multiple times, and it's really accessible.
Even this program, this show, we're recording it, warts and all, and it'll be available for replay for anybody to see after the broadcast has ended. I know we have a little audio feedback, and we're going to continue to work on that. I'm going to probably turn it over to Erinn again and ask a little bit more in terms of what are some of the trends related to multiculturalism, travel and tourism, the kind of work that you do teaching your classes at Temple University?
Well, definitely some trends that we're seeing right now is sustainability, looking at how, as an industry, we can be more environmentally conscious as well as sustainable. We're looking also at the industry from a kind of looking at the human resources and labor perspective to really be able to address a lot of the changing needs right now of our labor force. And then we're also having a discussion on diversity and inclusion within our industry. 2 weeks ago, the Lodging Magazine, along with PHL Diversity and Temple University, hosted a diversity and inclusion conference with both educators and industry professionals to talk about really the needs of the industry. Not so much about it changing; it's kind of already changed. It's almost about the catching up of that. So those areas are really, really big. And I think also kind of even to go off of even what Tiffany had mentioned, just the fact. I mean, just last night I had a conversation. I'm writing an article about surrounding the Democratic National Convention, which is taking place here.
Big time. Whoa, yes.
Yes. A lot going on. But my colleague at Boston University, Leora Lance, she was actually the director of PR for the Sheraton for the 1992 Democratic National Convention.
Okay.
So we're kind of doing this sort of comparison, but we're doing an article talking about how the media's effect. I mean, probably what she did was one of the first avenues, because in 92, nobody used the word brand. Nobody used the word integrated marketing communication. There was no social media. And like the creativity that they had to do in taking their hotel and using the renovation of their hotel as kind of a PR spin, using the DNC as a platform, as a PR platform, and how that was kind of considered really innovative at the time. Now that we're speeding it up, after this article to do a part sort of 3, we're going to do part 1 and part 2 now we've got social media. And it's kind of like, what is that? How different? And we're post 9/11. So how is that really going to really change the discussion and the environment surrounding Avenue? I think just the fact of blogs and the online discussions and pieces, that's huge. That's such a different discussion right now. So I think that, and it's really exciting.
Well, you being in Philadelphia, you've mentioned 2 important points. Thank you so much, Marquessa. Marquessa is just praising your blog, Tiffany. Marquessa is very savvy. She's already gone to your blog. She's checked it out, and she said it's fabulous. So that's the fabempire.com. Check it out. But Erinn, you've mentioned two things. First, the conference that I'm so sorry I could not make in Philadelphia at the end of April. I want you to talk a little bit more about that, and then talk about the upcoming Democratic National Convention. We know about that because we hosted the 2004 convention. So we know all about that. Even our committee knows about that. So first, talk to us about the convention that just took place, the conference, how many people were there, et cetera, and then give us some tidbits about what's taking place in preparation for the Democratic National Convention.
Yeah, the conference took place over, it was really kind of like a day and a half. It was very, very fast. We had a discussion, a faculty think tank that was on Wednesday, April the 27th, where there were two discussions that were happening. One as it surrounded faculty and talking about how do we attract underrepresented students into our hospitality programs. And then there was also a discussion amongst C-suite CEOs, et cetera, about diversity and inclusion in their avenue. That was on Wednesday following a reception and a dinner. And then on Thursday, and this was all at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, which really hosted the event. Daryl Adams is the general manager there. He's the only African-American general manager in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So even just kind of that sort of avenue and knowledge, was really brought to the table. But we also had different panels and discussions on supplier involvement, ownership, as well as trying to closing the gap.
Right. How many people were there roughly? It
was about 350. It was about 350, yeah. But we're looking, they're looking more towards to do something every year. Okay. So what I want to do is just sort of have a platform to continue the discussion. So something like the blogs and
keep us posted. And my goal, if you have it, is we're going to do a blab show live from that location. That would be great. I'd love to do that. Awesome. And tell us about the DNC. What kind of preparations from your perspective are being made? You talk about diversity. I'm just thinking about the contrast between Cleveland, where the Republican National Convention will be held like a week before, and then at the end of July, the DNC will take place. That's going to be quite a dynamic contrast. Demographically, it's going to be different. So, Erinn, what about it?
This is just an outsider's perspective. I do not represent the DNCC, nor do I represent the host committee. I just have to say that. But I have attended and spoken with many of the stakeholders. And I tell you, they're just so excited. They are extremely engaged in the city. They have really been nicely integrating both the staff as well as their presence here in Philadelphia. They've gone around to a lot of businesses. I think one of the really unique things about this event is the fact that there's just a heavy involvement in wanting to get as many Philadelphia businesses involved as possible. Right. So with Tiffany Numis really heading up the diversity program as it relates to diversity in companies, really being able to have those conversations over the last year, not just in the last 2 months, but really over the last year and a half. Right. It's been really, really good. I think that ultimately, it's kind of once again, though, going back to no one really we are obviously prepared as a city. Philadelphia hosted the Republican National Convention in 2000. So it's definitely a city that can handle it. But the avenue that we really, interestingly enough, been talking about is just kind of how the media mix and the differences are going to be. And security, it's just going to be very, very, it's going to be heightened. Very heightened. But also showing the welcoming aspect. Right.
And we know about, it's interesting that you talk about that. I remember 2004, this committee, getting back to Boston, and it's so funny. I love having Erinn on because now it's like friendly competition because Boston and Philly are always in competition with these conferences.
Yeah, it is.
Less so with New York, because New York is New York.
Right. New York is New York.
Definitely Philly and Boston. But I remember 2004, just all the conversations, the meetings, the subcommittee meetings around security. Barack Obama was running for Senate at that time. And I spoke to the Hawaii delegation in the morning at one of the breakfast events at the convention, and all they kept talking about was, "Oh, we love you. We thank you very much for your presentation. Where's Barry? We want to see where Barry is. When is he going to speak?" I said, "Barry? Who's Barry?" Barry was Barack Obama, because those were his folks, being from Hawaii. So then he spoke to the same delegation, I think, later that afternoon, and then went on and made that very historic speech while he was running for Senate at the DNC. So it's just amazing how wonderful those kind of attractions can be. And we hope that things will be sane in Cleveland. I have friends in Cleveland. I have relatives in Cleveland. We hope things will go well. What I've done, I'm going to click over. I've given in the chat box the link to our committee website. We actually have a microsite on the Boston USA website. So if you go to www.crossculturalboston.com, on the homepage, there's a letter from me, and down at the bottom, you can download a wonderful brochure that was put together in 2014 during the Black Journalist Convention, and it gives you highlights from revolution, it says, to evolution, of notables in Boston, African-American notables. I'll give you a few as the show goes on, but it's a great way for you to get a sense of history and also see who the players are here in Boston in the African-American community. So if you can download it at crossculturalboston.com, obviously free of charge. We'd love to have you. Michael Munn is joining us. I know that he's on the road. I sure hope he could hear us now. He had problems with audio before, but hopefully he'll be able to hear us. Tiffany, I want to go back to you and ask you about the youth scene. The thing I love about our committee is that we are multi-generational. We are also ethnically diverse. We have all ethnicities represented on the multicultural committee. And we also, that relates to age. So we have those of us who are a little senior like me, a little over 60. And then we have those who are much younger like Tiffany. Tiffany, what's the youth scene in Boston these days?
Yeah, the youth scene, I think, is really vibrant, and it's really wanting to connect with one another. There's a lot of things where we want to showcase that things can happen in Boston as well. So just as the convention scene is a little bit competitive in the way of getting people to come and fill hotels, and I think more so it's make a stop by Boston is kind of what the youth are kind of feeling. So, for example, there's a great website called I Don't Do Clubs. So it's for people that are out of the club scene and are now older and want to connect with people on a different level. So they have a party that goes around Houston, Dallas, different places, and it's called Must Love Beards. And it's kind of like a singles thing for women who love men with beards. And it's a quirky kind of thing.
It's called Must Love Beards?
Must Love Beards. Okay. Yeah.
All right. I put the other one in. I put the I Don't Do Clubs in the chat room. So I'll do Must Love Beards.
Love.com. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's we find these ways to connect. And so I heard that this was a great party. People have it all over social media, and I contacted the person and I was like, we got to bring it to Boston. And that's kind of the feel that people kind of have with these younger, fresh parties or events or things, that let's have one in Boston. I think I saw that Boston was also having a big, huge slide in the middle of downtown, water slide and things like that. So things that go around the country, we're really saying to the rest of the country, Boston's fun too. So come on through.
Right. That's great. So the I'm curious about the I Don't Do Clubs website. So what would be at that website if you were a younger person, younger professional, you want to get to know people? What would you do once you got to that site?
Yeah, so on the site it's really mostly, a lot of the events are based out of New York.
Okay.
And so it has kind of events that are friendly for people to meet each other, for people to get together. So it's networking events, club events, and they're even doing, I think, a trip. They're doing a trip, I think, to South Africa or Dubai. So it's kind of in the same vein of meetup.com,
Right.
if you've ever heard of that.
Yep.
Where there's different groups that come together. Well, this has kind of taken that and exploded it for a certain demographic, and saying, okay, we're people of color, we're young professionals, we may be able to, we have the means to travel, we have the education, but we're having hard times connecting with one another. And so this gives a lot of different options, no matter what you're really into, and kind of gives a calendar and things that you can sign up for in order to connect with other people within your city or across the city.
That's great. Erinn, were you familiar with that website? You shook your head in acknowledgement. Was that something that you knew about?
Yeah, I actually found them on Instagram first. Yeah, and then I went on to their site. Yeah, they're I know about them, and I mean, if anything, the name itself is clever. So I was like, I told you. So hey, this is for me. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great solution to a problem that Boston has had for some time. Again, I'm a diversity professional. I work a lot with organizations. I go inside these organizations. They have great luck with recruiting young professionals of color. They have a tough time retaining them. And part of that is the social connection, the social component. If you graduate, especially from an HBCU, historically black college or university, and you're the best of the best, and you've been recruited by XYZ company that brings you to Boston, you get your apartment, you get all settled, you're doing great on the job. But if you can't find people that you want to hang out with on the weekends, it can be really tough to want to stay here. Tiffany, any thoughts about that, or Erinn?
Yeah, I mean, that was really what the fabempire.com was about. I'm a researcher by nature. I'm at Columbia University now. And for that, it was I said, this is a really hard city to navigate. It just is. And I think it's a lot because there was such not an influx of young professionals that stayed. It's called the brain drain. We have these really wonderful institutions where people really get, full of knowledge, and then they leave because, like you said, they feel like they can't be connected to people. So for me, the Fab Empire was to bring together a lot of the things that are happening that people don't know about if they're not there, or if they're not in the certain circles. So because I'm not originally from here,
right,
I didn't have the same kind of approach to navigating those different circles. So I said, I'm just going to Dorchester. Yourself. Why not? Or good. I'm just going to, Beacon Hill. I don't know. So I didn't have kind of the biases or even the knowledge of the history in order to have that kind of feeling of, well, we don't do this or we don't do that.
Right.
And so from that, it started to break down some of those barriers for people like me who were transplanted and who just didn't know where to go, what to do on the weekends. And so that's kind of how it was born and how it kind of got a following. And then from there, I started to be more of influencing things like the mayor's council called 1 in 3. And that's because 1 in 3 people in Boston are a young professional between the ages of 19 and 34. So that organization, and I think they have an announcement coming up soon. I'll have to check in and check back with that. But is really targeting those people that have come to Boston or who are going to school here to say, if you want it, if you build it, you're already here, kind of thing. So encouraging people to build, to innovate, to stay, and to really contribute to the place that they're getting their education or professional development.
You know, it's interesting that you would say that in terms of innovation. I know that there is an innovation zone in the Dudley area of Roxbury, Massachusetts. Roxbury is an urban area, very vibrant, very historic, and they have an incubator down there where young entrepreneurs are starting their businesses. I've met some of them and really doing great things in the area, and they've intentionally put that location in the urban area so that they can take advantage of the city. There's also, I was listening to some podcasts this past weekend from Alexis Clater, who is my sorority sister, young woman. I've known her grandma and her family for many, many years, and she has a very hip podcast. And one of her guests on was, I believe her name is Heather White. I don't know if you know her, Tiffany, but or Erinn. She is a young professional in marketing, and she started a fitness club. Well, this is the way I think it operates. This is in Boston. She connects with clubs in, let's say, Newbury Street, Commonwealth Avenue, etc. And they have, you know what I'm talking about? And they have like events that take place. You can work out, and then your community is there also. So there's music, and so it's this whole themed approach to fitness. Tiffany, can you tell us more about that, or do you know about it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's exactly the same thing. I've heard of a couple of them. One is Fitness University,
okay,
where they plan events. There's a new one that just went through Future Boston Alliance's incubator program, which is called Trill Fit.
Yes, that's it.
So
that's it.
Kind of trill.
That's it.
Yeah.
Trill Fit.
So there's music called trill or trap music.
Right.
So they made a whole thing called Trill Fit, and it has that kind of up tempo, upbeat music.
Right. I just put it in the chat room.
And then there's another one called, I think, Love Workout, which is a dating site where you go work out, you do kind of a circuit training, but as you're doing your circuit training, you're meeting a new person every time you do a new exercise. So they're really getting these different ways of bringing people together. Also a group called Fresh Food Generation, that is bringing fresh food to the Dudley area, but that's culturally sensitive. So a lot of times these new innovative places come in, and they're juice bars or Starbucks, and they don't have anything to do with the culture that's presently there. So they also created a way of making foods that are a part of the Cape Verdean community, the Puerto Rican community, and are reflective of that. So there's a lot of really, really great innovation that's happening in Dudley and around the city. Yeah,
it lets me know that obviously I'm going to have both of you back on future shows, because we can deeply dive into one of these subjects and talk more in depth. I mean, the whole food scene alone is amazing. I mean, food trucks. There's a food truck that I go to. I live south of Boston, and there's a truck on Route 44 in the Taunton-Raynham area. They came from the south. They have some of the best barbecue anywhere. Oh my goodness, it is fabulous. And they're African Americans. I believe they have whites who are working with them. Every time I go there, there's a line. Every time. And you can get a pulled pork sandwich for like $5. That's just heaping with meat. It's just amazing. So the food scene here in Boston, you take your pick, whatever you want. The food is definitely here. Definitely. We don't have hoagies in Philadelphia, but we have great seafood and other food.
Oh yeah.
Dr. Erinn Tucker, do you see many African Americans? You have a PhD in the subject. Do you see many African Americans who are coming into the academic space related to hospitality, travel, and tourism from your perspective?
Coming in the space
in terms of joining you as colleagues.
All right. No, no, not. We don't see the numbers. Now let me though preface this. The numbers that we are seeing are much more from the Caribbean, West Indies,
Okay.
much more Caribbean, Jamaica, because I think that there's just an understanding of tourism and how important tourism is to their economy, and they grew up in it, they understand it. So what we do see is more of that, but it is by far still very small numbers. Just alone in even just the PhD world, we're probably 80% international students. It's really more than anything, even over US. Mm-hmm. So we are a very, very, very small number. But we've been also though having those discussions and working on how can we become, I was thinking the other day, how can we do a sort of like a PhD project sort of thing? Yes. So PhD project, as many people probably know, is basically kind of it was started through by corporate, but the purpose is to infuse more people of color into the business school doctorate programs. Right. And it would be sort of nice to even have something even like that, just to really push the dial. I do know that, there are, universities are definitely trying to work in that area. Right. What's kind of interesting, though, is that you kind of make me think about in Boston actually in the universities, the professional schools do actually a very good job at recruiting students of color. So what I mean by that, I mean like the medical schools, the law schools. Mm-hmm. I mean, they do very, very well because they go to HBCUs, they know how to attract. So that element, like that percentage of people are good, but like in the undergrad, in the actual professor, no, it's still very, very small. So that's.
And two things. Number one, you mentioned something about the Caribbean, and it's a natural in terms of hospitality and travel and tourism because that's a revenue stream. There was a school in Nepal that was interested in today's show. And I thought that was amazing. Now, I know I've been to India. Nepal is right next door. So travel and tourism, very, very important. If anybody knows this answer, I know the answer, but travel and tourism in Massachusetts, if you know this answer, I want you to put it in the chat room, is the number 1, 2, or 3rd largest industry in the state. I'll give you that hint. So if you know, put the answer in the chat room. Massachusetts, what ranking is hospitality, travel, and tourism in Massachusetts? Number 1, number 2, or number 3? And then I'm going to come back to Tiffany and ask you, with your experience, the connections that you have, do you see young professionals really taking travel and tourism seriously, even here in the greater Boston area in terms of a career path?
I don't. I really don't. I think a lot of the young professionals are kind of in the engineering mode, right? Okay. So there's this saying of families that say, either you're going to be an engineer, you're going to be a lawyer, or you're going to be a doctor. And a lot of people come with that mindset of that those are the only 3 careers that exist, right? But no offense to lawyers, but we have a lot of them.
My brother's a lawyer.
So it would be wonderful. It would be wonderful to see more people in tourism. And I think especially in Boston, where there still is this connotation that Boston, is not friendly to people of other cultures. Right. I think having more people within the hospitality and having our wonderful committee has really started to show that it is changing, that it can't change without having more people in leadership that are in the tourism industry. Mm-hmm. So we really, really need more from BU, more from the Providence School. I'm sorry, the culinary school over there as well.
Johnson and Wales, right.
Thank you. To really get them to think about the students within the area.
Right.
You know, I think a lot of times Boston really looks outside into international students, but as you said, Carole, this is a minority majority city.
Right.
So why aren't we talking to our high school students about opportunities in tourism?
True.
Why aren't we talking to them, you know, in middle school even, of thinking, hey, maybe you want to be a chef and maybe you want to be a director, you know, of the kitchen within or banquet, you know, or whatever it is. So I think Boston could do a lot to gear people who are already within the city for those careers, because they are very lucrative.
True. That is so true. And I want to give the answer. Dr. Erinn, you were close, but actually, closeness only counts in what, horseshoes? Actually, hospitality, travel, and tourism is the third largest industry in Massachusetts. Third largest industry. I just put it in the chat room. When you were here in Boston, when you were on the faculty at Boston University before you deserted us and left and went to Temple, typically, who were your students? Did you, and demographically, give us a sense of the students who you trained, and can you give us any indications about how many of them were recruited by companies and organizations in the Massachusetts area to stay in the region?
Wow. So the makeup is purely undergraduate at BU. So I would say it was probably about 70. Well, let's take this. But when I left, it was about 70% female.
Okay.
It was approximately 70 to 75% self-identified white Caucasian. Okay. 20% international. And then of course, you know, that kind of leaves maybe 10% with a little bit of you know, Latino, probably Latino larger, Hispanic Latino larger even than Black African American. So yeah, because it's a strong Dominican. That comes from Connecticut,
West Indies, Caribbean.
Yep. The number that stay, I would probably say maybe 20%, because they really get recruited everywhere. They go really everywhere. But many of them love Boston, and many of them, you know, are starting now to stay. I don't think any of them really want to per se leave. They go where the opportunities are, and because there are just so many international companies that are recruiting, that they literally go absolutely everywhere in the country, and some even go overseas.
Right. And I know that I'll be doing future shows on the educational marketplace here in Boston. It's an industry. It is very powerful. Yeah. And you can go anywhere in the world. Trust me. I was in Africa 12 years ago. I mean, deep in the woods, and met somebody from Concord, Massachusetts. So you could go anywhere. Somebody's gone to school here. Somebody has relatives here. It's a very powerful international destination, regardless of, it's a great city, and it's a great ethnic city as well. Definitely. So as we sort of wrap up this topic, it's been great. We've had people to stay with us and stop by. I'm not sure of the day that I'm going to do this particular show, because I have a radio show that I do every Thursday at 1:00 Eastern, but I am certainly hoping that there will be a permanent place for this show once I figure out what it is. But you'll all get notices if you like the show. If you connect with us, we'll definitely keep you posted. I have many opportunities to bring these wonderful women back on the show. Michael Munn was there. We're going to bring him on once his audio gets together. Turner Skandarian will be on. Kathy Doran with our committee. Pat Mascaratola, who is the president of the Greater Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau. So we have a wide range of people who will talk about Boston and saying yes to Boston and how exciting the city is. So, Tiffany, what's in your future that's connected to Boston?
Wow, that's a big question. I think I'm really enjoying the bi-city life. And I'm actually in Boston this weekend doing a lot of looking at different restaurants and fitness there to talk about on the blog. So stay tuned for those recaps. And then I'll be also expanding to Martha's Vineyard. So really taking our young professionals on an adventure and thinking about not just Boston, but New England and the easy ways to do destination day parties or day trips. And I love the vineyard, so I'd like to see more young people out there. So you'll see me around.
That's great. Well, you're going to be busy because there's a lot going on, and Martha's Vineyard is also an international destination. People love to come to the vineyard, including President Barack Obama. I'm sure that he'll probably spend one more season as our sitting president vacationing at the vineyard probably sometime in August, and that'll be a lot of fun. It really will. Erinn Tucker, what about you? What are your thoughts in terms of your future, even though I know you're not with us anymore, but you're definitely part of our committee, and your connection to Boston and just the industry in general?
See, I don't know why you say I'm not connected to Boston. Carole, you won't let me leave. You won't let me leave. It's not going to end, and I don't want to, so no. I mean, I was actually in Boston the first weekend of April. I'm kind of not even that far always from Boston. I still work with so many, as I mentioned before, just so many of my colleagues back at Boston University. So there's always going to be that connection. Good. I'm still technically a member of even my sorority chapter in Boston. I haven't even transferred membership. It's just, I don't even, it for me.
Is Zeta Phi Beta?
I'm sorry?
Zeta Phi Beta?
No, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority.
Oh, you're Alpha Kappa Alpha. Okay, all right. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm a Delta. No, Alpha Kappa Alpha. Yes, ma'am.
No, it's all good. So it's just, but it's kind of funny though that you mentioned that, because I really wanted to even touch on that in closing with what Tiffany said about, I wasn't from, I wasn't from Boston,
right.
And it was really it's a very tough social scene, and so to really tap into it, the sorority was that like saved me, and the welcomeness that I received from the sorors there, but I mean a lot of Delta friends. I mean, just the whole panel, the National Panhellenic Divine Nine sort of is a huge, sort of thing. But if I didn't even have that, that kind of really opened up my social avenue, because I would have had to find such a different path. Mm-hmm. But I do acknowledge what Tiffany said. It was tough, but I think that it's those welcoming pockets that you can really find in Boston, and it keeps me still connected to Boston. I don't even think that I even when I came back, I didn't feel like I really ever left. So, so I'm still very much connected. I'm still very much connected to, National Society of Minorities and Hospitality, even the chapter members.
We're not going to let you go, even though you're physically living in another city. No, we're not letting you go at all. You or Tiffany. Neither one of you.
I'm going to be too. I'm going to be like Tiffany. I want to grow up and be like Tiffany. And have multiple.
That's great. Well, this has been wonderful, and I just appreciate both of you for being on the show. You've given me several ideas about what we need to do going forward. I want to keep this topic alive and fresh. We've looked at it from a demographic perspective. We've looked at it in terms of the political conventions that have come here, the cultural and ethnic conventions that have come here, the people who are here, the young people who are here in particular, the restaurants, the food scenes. This may spin off into a whole show just about Boston, even though my show is actually called Conversations with Carole, Culture, Creativity, and Connections. But I wanted to do this kind of show because I wanted to be proud of my city, my adopted home, and I knew that you were going to be great in terms of just talking about who we are and what we do and the roles we play here in the city. So before we end, I have put my website on the site, and that's CaroleCopelandThomas.com. It's in the chat room. I'll also retype in CrossCulturalBoston.com. And Tiffany or Erinn, any other information, please share it in the chat room as we are wrapping up the show. Tiffany, anything that you can think of?
Just definitely check out the website. Also follow me on Instagram, Boston Fab 1, on Twitter, Boston Fab, for the latest things that are happening in Boston and beyond.
Great, great. And Erinn, any thoughts about contact information, ways that you think people can stay connected in Boston? Please share that information.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, likewise, I mean, I'm definitely going to have a website up pretty sometime this summer, so I'll definitely keep you up to date on that. I stay up on a lot of events, news in the industry, so definitely please follow me at Erinn Tucker, ERINN Tucker, with that. And then also, I mean, my LinkedIn is kind of serves right now as sort of my posting blog. So definitely look for me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Very, very good. And so we have lots of information. Again, this will all be captured because we're recording this show to let people know what can be done. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's just so many other things. I'm excited to know these wonderful women, because they have a lot to share, and I look forward to seeing Erinn's website in the summer and finding out more. I'll be in your big city when the African Methodist Episcopal General Conference comes, so I look forward to connecting with you at some point. And Tiffany, it's just always a pleasure seeing you and knowing the good things that you're doing here in Boston. So before you ladies leave, and before everybody leaves, I have another question. I have my list of questions here, all these fabulous things. So Boston, Chinatown, that's a whole other conversation I'm going to have in the show.
Yes.
Is the what largest Chinese neighborhood in the country? Take a guess. Da 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 da.
I put in third.
Third, you got it, Dr. Erinn. Very good. It's the third largest Chinese neighborhood in the country, and I say that because people actually live in Chinatown in Boston, so it's not like it's like a museum or a tourist area. They physically live in that area. And let's see, let me pick another one. I love this, and I'm going to get this right. Okay. What is the oldest public school in the United States? That's one question. And what is the oldest public elementary school in the United States?
I know one is Boston Latin. I know. Oh, yeah. Okay, she beat me.
Any thoughts about that? Okay. So, and I have to get this straight because
Tiffany got it. Tiffany got the first one.
Which one? Boston Latin, the Boston Latin School. Yes. So let me get my little notes here. All right, you are correct, and I want to make sure that I get Boston Latin School is the largest public school existing in the United States. And it was founded April 23rd, 1635. That's the largest public school. That's the oldest public school. Oldest public school. The oldest public elementary school in North America is located in Dorchester. It's an existing school, and it was started just a few years later, May 20th, 1639, and that's the Mather School in Dorchester. So those are the two oldest schools in North America that we know of. That's how far back our existence is from a Western perspective. We know that the Native Americans were here. That's another show. But when you're talking about education, it begins in Boston. The education has always been very important, and we've woven that into our conversation today. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. I thank everyone for joining us. You can see me on Twitter at Global Carole and Facebook under Carole Copeland Thomas. I have a YouTube channel as well. This show will be archived. Website is CaroleCopelandThomas.com. And the crossculturalboston.com website is the website for the Multicultural Committee for the Greater Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's been delightful. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Dr. Erinn. Bye. Bye-bye.